Let us welcome Douglas Avilesbernal.
Thank you. It's good to be with you all. It's a joy. Talk a little bit about something that is going to be part of our life as a church for a long time. So, do any of you speak Spanish? No? That actually works better for me if you don't. But, so, this whole thing of diversity generally is a difficult thing because it's so unsettling, it's so uncertain, it's so difficult to understand, and we hardly ever know where we're going. So it's very difficult to accept it, and even worse, it means that we let people into our church, and they get to decide what they do. Even in the service, nobody wants to do that. We all say we do because we're all Christians. But nobody really wants to walk into letting someone come to your church in diversity. So at first, diversity is very complicated. You know it's there, you see it, but you can't understand it. It's very difficult to grasp what it means. So the process that we get from this journey will be something that could do that for us. Walk us into a path that then we could understand better. So working towards that, the main goal is to show this very difficult thing to understand in a more loving thing that grows us, that grows our world, and surprisingly, is really good for our churches. Have you heard that? I don't know if you realize this, but letting other people in works out really well, and instead of losing out, we end up gaining a whole lot. And I'll tell you just a story to begin quickly. There was a Jewish gentleman. He moved to D.C. from Brooklyn. He moves to D.C. and he's a baker. So he's very excited because he gets a brand new market where no one else is there. Super excited, gets in there. He's at the bakery at 2 in the morning. The owner who had rented the property to him comes at around 6 a.m. And he's looking around and he sees he's making these things and he says, "What is that you got there?" And he says, "Oh, they're called bagels and I'm gonna sell them for 5 cents a piece." And the owner says, "Nobody's gonna buy any Jew food here." And then, so now, how many of you have had a bagel in your lifetime? Right? So the hated food has come to enrich our breakfast, our life, our joy. So oftentimes what happens when we encounter diversity is that at first we too say, nobody's gonna like that. Who wants to eat spaghetti? No. But then we move into it and something surprising happens. We discover the richness of it. And even better, we realize that it doesn't take from us, but instead we become more. But that is a difficult process. And in that process then is that we live with this diversity. When people see me dressed the way I am, now for you guys, this is what they think I do. Because of how I look. So I have to wear a suit when I go to my church, not because the church requires me to wear a suit, but because if I don't, people who come to the church will think I am there to clean or mow the lawn. English is, I'm trying to find it a nice addition to my life, but we judge from where we live. This is what this gentleman, Montaigne, he was an attorney in the early 1500s in Europe. And he's writing about Europeans calling the Native Americans savages. And he says, tradition fills the gap of reason when we encounter the other. Right? Tradition fills the gap of reason when we encounter the other. Most of us tend to do away with reason when we are encountering change that is driven by someone different than us. And tradition takes up. That's why we hear, we've never done it like that before. we shouldn't do this. That's not really church. I once was at a church that had a sanctuary and a smaller room. And the people thought that the only place you did church was in the sanctuary. So when you were in the smaller room, you didn't really have church. You were just kind of playing church. God wasn't there in the real sense. Tradition fills the gap of reason when we encounter the other. It's difficult for us to think and reason, and we just withdraw into what we know. Because it's safe. We know how to do it. We know how to use it. We know how to get there. So when people discover that I am actually a pastor, the way they treat me changes. The way I'm addressed is different. The way we converse becomes something else. It's not just because of my ethnicity. It could happen to anyone else who's young in an older congregation. Once they know your office, then people begin to address that office. It's something they know. They know a pastor. They know what she does. So things change. And then then I look like that in their minds. But before, I looked like that in their minds, right? After a while, it changes. And the way you address the person changes. The way you listen to them changes. The way you're willing to engage with them changes. And that is the point of the journey of this book that we like to bring to you as part of the series. Now, many of us have something that we believe is an illness, and most of us say we don't really have it, especially because we're Christians. And as Christians, we're good people. We're not like them. So I know most of us don't have this, but there are a few who do. Have you seen that? Prejudice, right? Because we're American Baptists and we're diverse, we don't have those. And we talk about them like an illness. I'm not prejudiced. So we wake up. I'm not prejudiced. I don't have that. I have friends. Once somebody told me, they said, "Oh, I have a Mexican friend." I'm not prejudiced. He even comes to my house and everything. But I think part of the problem is that we misunderstood what prejudice is. We've projected our own tradition, our own baggage, our own historical baggage into that word. So instead of meaning what it actually means, which is judgment before, it becomes accusation. So nobody wants to be accusative. But the fact of the matter is that we all prejudge all the time. We were created to prejudge by God. We see someone, we have to place him in somewhere we know. So traditions oftentimes is our scope of knowledge. We have to compare him to something we know. So they're like this, they are like that, they are like this, they are like that. So hopefully through this journey we could come to a place where we discover that it doesn't necessarily have to be a terrible thing. Now, I have prejudice of my own. So maybe I'll share one with you. This is terrible, so we'll just keep it private here with us. I'm not a big fan of these people. They love their trucks, and if it is an F-150, even better. Rams are okay, but not F-150. And the boots, you gotta have nice boots. The ones that are not for riding out in the field, but nice color, leather. Wonderful and noticeable. You could tell. You know why you could tell? Because you're wearing very tight jeans. And the tight jeans really show that there are boots down there. And if you notice, you sit like this so everybody sees your boots. Right? And the music, this folksy sort of thing, not a big fan of that either. And of course, I know we're in the Midwest, so no offense, but they love guns. They love, so there's really nothing better than riding your F-150, listening to your folksy music with your boots on and your gun rack, and where you go? And now he's of course he's missing the biggest part, right? Like a big belt buckle that you may not have earned it, but you're gonna wear it like you earned it. You know, that's the thing. So you walk, tight jeans, everybody knows you're wearing boots, and your hat, right? So I'm not a huge fan of that world. Because, so what I realized is that 12 out of 10 people have prejudice. Yeah. So you don't escape. So you know, you could tell others, every 12 out of 10 people will have prejudice. So I just shared mine with you, right? Maybe a picture will help us with this difficulty. Trucks, right? F-150s. Folksy music, not a big fan. Fancy boots, yay. Gotta have your cowboy hat. The love of guns, right? There's nothing better than riding down the country in your F-150, listening to your music with the gun rack shaking behind you, and your boots on. And your solid belt buckle. Wear it like you earned it, even though you probably never even been close to a bull or a bronco, but you still gotta wear it like you earned it, right? So these people are not my, you know, so here's a picture for you guys of that. You know, prejudice is an interesting thing. As we explore diversity, we may come to realize that our prejudices are taking us into a familiar place, but we're making it be strange, right? Because if you know somebody who's called El Jefe de San Luis, probably would not be very welcomed in, say, a honky-tonk, where everyone is dressed like he is, everyone loves what he loves. Look at his F-150. Look at all he's done with it. Those boots. That gun is his favorite gun ever. And the hat. So more often than not, we end up having more things in common than we would like to admit to ourselves. So this journey walks us through this process of discovery. To say that when we encounter the other, we have two choices to make. We could say, this is not going to work. Or we could say, well, let's see, maybe. I don't really like it so far, but it could turn into something. And at worst, we get lasagna out of this. But the whole thing is a journey. And as with every journey, it has to start somewhere, and there needs to be someone pushing. Someone who is constantly there, someone who's supporting, who is helping people, who is guiding them. Have you ever been on a trip without a guide as a group? When no one, you know, if there isn't an official guide and there are 10 people and it's lunchtime? Have you experienced that? It's impossible. Oftentimes, we as churches get stuck where we are because diversity is this strange thing that nobody really knows very well and nobody wants to lead anybody else into. So, leading into diversity, this book is to help us, both lay leadership and clergy leadership and church members who have a passion for this, to walk with our particular community into a greater awareness of those around us. And it's good to say, we all judge. So To spend our time trying to make our churches not judge is a whole lot of expense and energy that's going to get very little return. I would encourage us rather to spend all our time to exploring what we do once we have those prejudices. To just acknowledge that they're going to be there, that they're coming. So then focus our energy into saying, okay, what do I do when I know I'm not going to like this? How can I walk into this hoping to discover instead of being worried about what's going to be taken from me? And the result is wonderful. We do have to spend time in the wilderness. We do have to, we are going to make wrong turns. We're going to have to turn around, come back the way we were before, and then get back on track. All of that is going to happen. All of that is going to be part of the journey, as it is with every journey into a new place. If you're not from Kansas, it's very hard to come here and say, oh, this is the place the locals really like. Where's the best barbecue? And every person you ask tells you a different place. And you don't have the time to go taste all of them to see which one's the best. So, leading community into diversity takes us there to say, make the journey longer. Make room for mistakes. Help the people expect to prejudge and be upset and be angry and be questioning. Help your group know that it's not going to be easy. If you go into that knowing that these things might happen, you might have a better chance of making it through to the end. But oftentimes we get these packaged things that tell you if you do steps 5 through 7, by the time you get to 8, you're going to have a multicultural church that loves Jesus and their pastor. Right? And you spend hundreds of dollars on the program, and it has booklets and a CD. It has a CD that you could show and clips for the sermon. And then you get to the 8th point, and you change a whole lot of things, and you've gone nowhere. So instead of a 180, it becomes a 360, only now you're really tired because you walked a long time, and you're still where you were before. So leading into diversity is creating a room for mistake, creating the space for giving a chance to the other. We're not going to like everything about each other. We're not going to enjoy everything about each other. For example, if I was to group it up at church during Sunday morning, I wouldn't be in my church very long. But it is still worship. Likewise the other way, right? Did you know that some people in church like the organ still played on Sunday morning? Radical concept. So, in closing then, leading into diversity is not something that we could just fill a questionnaire, get a demographic study of our neighborhood, and then do targeted advertising. It has to be deeper. And I'll close with this. Welcoming this type of diversity is to say, is not only to let people into your house, you know, that living room, that room where all the people that come to your house could be. You know, right? In your house, there are places where people, the newer they are, the fewer spaces they could go to, right? To lead a church into deep, Christ-driven diversity means that you have to eventually get to the place where they could go to your bedroom and sit on the bed and say, I don't like the way that dresser is there. Can we move it over here? And then you find yourself saying, okay, let me help you. Maybe we should take the drawers out first. But to go from you could only be in the living room with the couch still new 10 years later to in the bedroom discussing how we're rearranging it, it's a long journey. The purpose of our book here through Judson Press is to walk with you through that journey, to take all those steps, to go into your wilderness, To know that you have company when you get lost. To know that it is okay to get lost and to be angry and to say, you didn't bring the map? I thought you brought the map. Who has the map? You didn't bring the map? I thought it was a left turn. Oh, it was your left. Well, we should be facing the same way. All of that is part of this journey. So as you go back to your churches, I hope that you get information from Judson Press about this book, but begin your journey. It takes a while, but it is absolutely worth it. Enjoy your lasagna when you get home.
Thank you so very much, Doug. Douglas Avilesbernal. Leading your community and leading community into diversity. That's a very, very, very important topic. I know that most of my ministry has been challenged by just that. How do we lead our community, whatever that community is, into diversity? Questions that you have for Doug? Questions, comments. He's in the process of writing, so he's also looking for good ideas and good stories. Questions, comments, quick stories.
Can I tell you one more thing? Since there are no questions, I'm sorry if I cut you short, but no problem. Most of the time, what you need is very obvious to you if you look at it the right way. So, for example, I like you to read my shirt. Right? Did you notice that at first? But it took looking at it. And so oftentimes what we need is right in front of us. But we're going to fight it as best we can, because I'm never going to get an F-150. But I'll be glad to have someone with one in my church.
Doug, thank you for being a part of Judson Press Talks, JP Talks.